We are live. We're back together again. It's the Arn Show. Paul Brummel with all of you here on the Four Horsemen Network. And it's been a while, a little over a month since our last episode, but we're back and better than ever. And as always, I'm joined by the Hall of Famer, the architect of the Spine Buster, the standard bearer of tag team wrestling, and our reigning television champion. Goodness gracious, it's good to be back. He's the enforcer. He's Double A. He's Arn Anderson. And Arn, before we get going, how you feeling, man? You've been under the weather. And we missed you last show. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, and I don't miss shows, so I apologize for that. Just wasn't up to it, but I'm much better, guys, and I appreciate it. Like I said, for all the faithful out there that tune in and join us every week or every couple of weeks, sorry about that, and glad to be back. I missed you guys.
Listen, man, everybody is entitled to a day off here and there, and being under the weather, nobody feels it. We want you to rest and take some time, so no worries. But I was getting the itch because we had skipped some time because I know you and Aaron were celebrating your 40th wedding anniversary. So once again, congratulations. Arn, you got a great woman. You know that. And so congratulations there. But then you got under the weather, and I'm like, buddy, by the time we get back together again, me and you may have to reintroduce ourselves to each other, but we stay in contact over the phone. But I've missed you, man.
You too, buddy, and you're right. She is the best. Would not be here without her. That's for sure. For sure.
For sure. No. Listen, we a few things. So we got some people commenting already. I want to say hi to all of you. Don't forget, send in your questions, your comments, super chats. Go a long way for the show, for Arn. So we appreciate everything. We have people. I'm just going to go over there now because a lot of people are saying making some comments. Darth Payne, hey guys, hope everyone is well. Tomorrow, Arn, is the 2-year anniversary of my wife's passing. And it was great seeing Double A. Yep, he saw you in Beckley. He got some more stuff from you, and he just really enjoys getting to see you. So Darth Payne, first of all, 2-year anniversary of your wife passing, man. Thoughts and prayers with you so much. Appreciate you supporting this show, man.
100%, man. There's, like I just said, I don't know what I would do without Aaron, and I know it's a loss that you have to work on every day. I know a little bit about that too. So yes, God bless you, and just hang in there, buddy. Hang in there.
Yeah, man. So well said. The boss says, and I love this because we're going to get there. I didn't even talk to you about this before the show. He says, I respect you, Double A. And that is in reference to I respect you, Booker Man. We're going to talk about the Brian Pillman, Kevin Sullivan strap match that you ended up having to come down and strap yourself into Sullivan because Pillman stormed out of the match that night when he was strapped in. Remember last show we talked about him shoving Heenan around and Heenan walking off and getting upset, the loose cannon. Now this is the show that we're going to talk about tonight where I respect you, Booker Man. So the boss says, I respect you, Double A. I love the tie-in. Daisy Mama is with us. She said, I hope everyone's doing well. Charlie CG, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great. Double A, hope this finds you doing well. Paul, cheers to you. Just love to see all of our friends. Efren Guzman, Arn and Paul, the best team. Just love to see you all here. And there's nothing like your encouragement, and we appreciate you all so much. There's no Arn show without these folks, Arn.
100%. This is, again, it's my way of after 40 years saying thank you for you guys giving me the career that you have. You're responsible. Take a bow. I sure do appreciate it.
Arn, listen, speaking of a way of giving back, there's other ways that you're still able to give back and meet fans and shake their hands and making appearances. And you have quite a few of those coming up. And so let's get into it where fans can see you and Brock. And that is coming up here on July 19th. It's Saturday and about a week and a half away. You're going to be in Eastwood Field, at Eastwood Field in Niles, Ohio, for the Wrestling Under the Stars event. You are going to be in the corner of Brett Goslin and your son Brock against Waves and Curls. And there's a bunch of other stars that are going to be there as well. I'm sure you're looking forward to hanging out and seeing Kane and Shelton Benjamin, MVP, and others. But this is a big time event, and I know you're looking forward to getting out and about and seeing fans there.
I'm not sure how much entertainment Niles, Ohio gets in a year. I got a feeling it's a small place. Uh, that's pretty damn loaded and impressive lineup there.
It is. It's a great lineup of stars, and you can get tickets at mvscrappers.com. As if you're watching on YouTube, which we would love for you to check it out on YouTube, the show, you can see the web address right there, and that's where you can see all the stars that'll be at that show. And then moving on, Friday night, July 25th, Truist Field in your backyard, Arn, at Charlotte, North Carolina, for the Charlotte Knights. Sting, obviously, as you can see, will be there, but so will the Andersons. That's right, CW and Brock. And man, I feel like a lot of these cards I see, they're always going against the Mortons. I mean, it's a big rivalry up and down the indie circuit anymore.
I think that name value's got some sting to it. No pun intended, but you got the Andersons against the Mortons. Pretty stout to me if you know the history.
And listen, they're doing photos and autographs 5 to 8, and then the bell time at 8 o'clock. So if you're in the Charlotte area, make sure you check out that show as well. You get to see Shotzi. It's her debut there. Matt Riddle, Carlito, and others as well. But our buddy Brock Anderson will be there. And then this is the one I'm personally super excited about. It's the Gathering 6, A New Beginning in Charlotte, North Carolina, July 30th through August the 3rd. Brock's going to be in the Rumble. Arn and Brock are going to be signing, taking pictures. The Horsemen will be there. Tully, Arn, Barry Windham, J.J. Dillon, taking group pictures. You can take individual pictures with everyone as well. And Arn, I get to see you, my friend, and I've missed you. It's been over a year since I got to see you when you were inducted into the Hall of Fame, which we're both wearing your shirt of, which was a great ceremony. But it's been over a year, and I look forward to seeing you.
Yep, you too, buddy. It's a 4-day event. I don't know how many talent they got there, well over 100, I'm sure. So there's probably something for everybody. And it's just about 30 minutes up the road.
And that's nice too. And what I also love is a lot of the fans and listeners of this podcast and watch on YouTube are going to be there as well. You guys have heard the name Amy Vaughn. Miss Amy's going to be there. The research guy, Andrew Hermes, is going to be there. And some of you I've saw over the weeks have mentioned that you're going to try to make the show as well too. So I can't wait to connect with all of you there live and in person. Hug your neck and thank you for supporting the show. It's just going to be a great time. And you know who else? I was looking at the card at some of the stars that are going to be there is Dr. Tom Pritchard, someone that I did a few shows with back in the day, and I became such a fan of Dr. Tom. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing him too.
He is a credit to the business. He's responsible for training unknown amount of talent. But he's a guy you want in your industry if you have an interest in your business success. Tom's a guy you want on your team.
I love it. I can't wait to see a lot of the stars from Jim Crockett Promotions era. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, Arn, I didn't mention this to you, but there's another guy that really helps out behind the scenes, not only for the show, also for social media, also for the Four Horsemen shop, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I don't know if you've seen this picture or heard what's going on here with our buddy, our friend, our pal, Marcus D'Angelo. Have you seen this picture make its way around the internet?
Wow. He's already a champion?
Now listen, let me give you the backstory, okay? When he first posted this picture, I thought he won the belt. But as it turns out, he knocked this out of his knocked out his opponent after losing the match, and he stole the belt. And now it sounds like he wants a return match at the next International Wrestling Cartel show, Arn, and it's this coming weekend. So there's a lot of drama around it. He actually stole the belt. If you listen to any of Marcus's show, this is his belt. But he's really stirring it up on the independents, especially with IWC, and he thinks he's really king shit now, and he's a heel. All right, Arn, I'm telling you, and he's a talker, but he's carrying that belt. Look at that smirk on his face. Does he think he's the man or what?
If I remember correctly, and I hate to admit this, but there's no reprisal possible. Didn't I do that to Dusty?
Yeah, you
TV
certainly
ball?
did. Yeah.
So Marcus learned something. He must have been watching tape. Possession is 9/10 of the law. That's what they
Oh, I
say.
love it. I love it. Arn's giving him his props. Listen, he is a throwback. He's got the glove. He got that glove from Ted. He's knocking people out with that loaded glove. That was Ted's old glove.
Where'd he get those abs?
Man, if I knew how, I mean, he is busting his ass. Diet, exercise. He has really dedicated himself to the sport. I'm proud of him. And yeah, he looks great. Phenomenal shape.
Looks like he's got a Popeye muscle going on that bicep too.
He's really, listen, I'll never forget one of the first times I met Marcus. I think we were working a StarCast and there was a ring set up and he's like, "Hey Paul, let's go down in the ring. Give me a body slam. I want to take a bump." And now, and so I did. I went in, gave him a slam. The pictures look horrendous. I look like I just ate a dozen donuts or something. But to see where he's come and dedicated himself to the craft, watching some of his entrances and how he's performing in the ring, his ability cutting promos, proud of Marcus D'Angelo. So we'll see if he can earn it fair and square this weekend. But man, what a shot, huh?
Good luck, Marcus. You
Yeah.
might just be a natural at this, buddy, because you ain't been in but just a minute. Looks like you're making some waves. Good for you.
I love it. I love it. So cool. Hey, I mentioned that we're sporting the shirts, and I'm not doing my job if I'm not chilling on your behalf, Arn, for a little bit of merch. But guys and gals, if you haven't lately, go over to fourhorsemanshop.com, all one word. That is the place to go to find all your Arn Anderson, all your Four Horsemen gear. Tank tops have been added. T-shirt designs. You can find the shirt just like we're wearing. You can still find those hoodies and sweatshirts, but there's mugs, there's cups, a nice horseman polo, a couple different colors you can pick from. I'm thinking about maybe grabbing one of those polos to wear when I come down to Charlotte. I just told you before the show, I placed an order. I got a new hat on the way, a horseman hat, a nice orange shirt. And so I'm looking forward to rocking that when I'm down at the convention. But man, that is the place to go. It was just kind of revamped a little bit within the last week or two, cleaned up, really looks nice and tight and great designs. And if you want to show some love to Arn Anderson, okay, that's a great way to do it. And also look great doing it. So make sure you check out the site, guys. You can see a picture of a shirt down here, a nice maroon Enforcer AA shirt on this graphic. But also, I had someone DM me, Arn, and say, "Hey, Paul, I remember you were talking about those hardcover comic books. What's the deal with the hardcover comic books?" And Arn, my trip to Charlotte isn't just to, sit at a table and hug some people. I'm also going to swing by the Anderson home and grab a few boxes of those hardcover comic books. And we're going to add those to the site within the next few weeks. We'll make sure we let you know. But those hardcover, the last ones made, are going to go up on the site and be available. And when they're gone, they're gone. No more hardcovers. But man, I'm excited to make those available once again to our fans. Paperbacks, you can still get those, but the hardcovers are coming. And I can't wait to get those up on the site soon.
We'll make sure that everybody knows what they're getting, and we will have those featured. Love to have everybody get one, because when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone. Or maybe we'll get you to sign a few of them too. Make a few of them really, really special.
Sign everyone that wants one.
Okay.
You'll get a signature with it and personalized, and I think that alone tells you that you're getting a hell of a value.
There you go. I love it. Well, listen, one more update before we get into the show. We'll get going here. Next show, mark it on your calendars, write it down. Tuesday, July 29th. We'll be back together again. So again, it's a few weeks out. The week of the 21st. Little vacation for the Bromwell family. Be out and about at the then also at the end, right before we go to the gathering, we will do Ask Arn Almost Anything on the 29th. And then that weekend, Arn and Brock will be in Charlotte. I'll be heading down that way, making the 8-hour car drive. and we'll all be together. So write it down on your calendars, whatever you need to, throw it in your cell phones. It's Tuesday, July 29th, 6 o'clock Eastern. Can't wait to see you all there. All right, let's see. Do we have any super chats yet? No, not yet. A lot of folks funneling in. Jason James is here. Let me see who else we got. Ryan Nodal. Oh, he's back. He said, did you miss me? Of course we missed you. And oh, man, he's talking about the Steelers. And so, yeah, they've made a couple changes. Andrew is here. And he said, Arn did do that to Dusty over the TV title and possession 9/10 of the law, 1985. The research guy's got it covered, man.
He knows.
Oh, I love it. CG says it's great to have a distraction from the day-to-day. And so I'm glad that we can provide you with all that, guys. And so let's get into it. What we're here to talk about, it's all about February 1996. And this is one of the most chaotic, fascinating builds in WCW, the road to SuperBrawl, Arn, in 1996. And let's just say it's a stretch of TV, and we're going to get into it. It wasn't boring. And if you remember, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Brian Pillman was starting to really spiral. We talked about his dust up with Heenan, Ringside, Clash of Champions 32, Loose Cannon. And we'll talk about another event that occurs here in February to further that persona, which I mentioned as well, the bookerman deal. We're going to get into that. But before we do, let's talk about the build to SuperBrawl. And Arn, the title of this show is Arn Beats Hogan. Arn, this is the month that you beat Hogan not once, but twice. Back-to-back Nitros. You remember it, don't you?
Oh, I'll never forget it.
We're going to talk about this month that we're covering right now. So this is going to be fun. And I'm looking forward to it.
I can always talk about that.
Oh, man. I watch SuperBrawl, and sometimes I'll watch SuperBrawl, and then I'll just get in, I'll read the notes, because there's a lot going on now at this point in your career. There's 4 Nitros a month. There's usually sometimes a Clash, sometimes a pay-per-view. But when I saw that you beat Hogan twice, I was like, I got to watch some Nitros too. And buddy, I'm so glad I did. Let's talk a little bit the lead up to it. We'll get there. I'm excited for this show. Nitro from January 29 as we wrap up the end of January. We're in Canton, Ohio, and you're ringside with Jimmy Hart. You steal Elizabeth's shoe, and Flair blasts Hogan in the eye to get the win. Later, Hogan's bandaged. I don't know if you remember that, but he's bandaged his eye. He makes the save with the chair. Then the following week in Lakeland, we get Woman jumping ship. She's done with Hogan and that group. She was with him. It was very short-lived. She joins the Horsemen. She attacks Savage. Flair kidnaps Miss Elizabeth, because at this point, Miss Elizabeth is still with the good guys. And you and Pillman are involved in a tag match with Dungeon of Doom, and that ends in chaos. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about here at this point is we have the Horsemen, we have the Dungeon of Doom, 2 heel factions that seem to both be going after Hogan and Savage. The problem is you're also going after each other, and it seems like the lines are just really blurry at this point. Do you remember or recall if there was a cohesive plan about the kind of this booking style? I mean, you're a guy who always understood psychology, but it felt like, why would you have the 2 heel factions brawling with each other as well as both targeting the good guy group?
Well, your instincts are right, because by and large in those days, other than unless you've got a Blanchard Anderson Midnight Express pairing, wrestling heels, I think most fans, I don't know, they let you know, will just think, well, guys, go ahead in there and kill each other. I don't like any of you guys. And maybe it was a way to create some interest just from being different, because we didn't have heels versus heels very often in those days.
So to your point, it's just, hey, let's try something new, something we haven't done before. Let's try to mix things up, get people talking, and maybe try to do something a little different.
Throw something against the wall, see if it sticks. You didn't have 50 guys that were clearly defined and over, and 20 baby faces here and 25 heels over here. There was just trying to make everybody mean as much as they could, and the angle at least have a personal feel to it.
I also want to talk a little bit about Woman, Nancy, because she was portrayed when she first, again, with Hogan and Savage, as a babyface. But we, longtime wrestling fans, remember her being a heel, right? A heel manager, managing Doom in the Crockett days. Do you feel like, hey, why did we even start with that? She should have been a heel to begin with, or what are your thoughts on that? Because I always, again, just pictured her as a heel manager. So to move her to heel made a lot of sense to me. Just having her with Hogan just didn't seem like a fit from the beginning.
It would have been much better to have her debut as a heel.
Yeah.
And make some impact on her first TV. You're right. Hogan doesn't need female managers. He's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Yeah. And she seems like a perfect complement to the Horsemen.
Beautiful lady, inside and out. No doubt about that. But you look at her and you knew she could make somebody miserable if she wanted to. Vicious.
She actually accompanies you for your match against Hogan. She walks you down the aisle. You're in a black leather vest, the first Nitro match. And I thought to myself, as I watched you walking down with her, you were obviously very respectful. You let her in the ring first. You hold the rope for her to get in. Always a gentleman, Arn, even as a heel. And I thought, I wonder, Arn, what thoughts of Nancy? Just nice lady behind the stage, easy to work with.
We were fans. I mean, been friends for a while at that point. Like I said, one of the most lovely human beings, nicest people, kindest people you'll ever meet. And she was just one of those that she understood the business.
Yes.
She had good psychology. She wasn't just a eye candy.
Mm-hmm.
She was a player, and you put her out there and give her an assignment, she could pull it off. And in those days, they weren't lady wrestlers. They were ballets.
She, I agree with you 100%, because it, to your point, wasn't just eye candy and things like that. Of course, very attractive, but she knew the business. I think in the cage match, which we're going to talk about with Rick, at SuperBrawl, she is constantly screaming. You just hear her screaming, but she's playing her role so well. Whether she's pouring, the powder in her hand to throw it into Hogan's face, whether she was with Sandman and ECW, whatever her role was, she just did it so well. But then you also, and I've been able to talk to you and others, just hear about how kind she was, and how nice. It's just so refreshing to hear good stories about her. Then let's transition over to Liz, because at this point, Liz and Savage are working together. Savage openly questions why didn't you warn Hogan about Flair and the Giant? So he starts teasing this whole distrust. So now we're all dialed in to see, well, what's the tension with Savage and Elizabeth here? So, and you've been around them both. Do you think their real life tension really helped add to the weight to their story? Or would have you told that story a little differently?
What you saw was exactly what was. Their own in the ring persona. It's the same as it was backstage. Randy was very possessive of Liz to a point of it being maniacal. And she was, again, another one of those just very demure, sweet, whatever you need, whatever you want, kind people. That was, really a lady. She really was. And she looked like a star. So she had all the attributes of what you would want. But Randy really put the screws to her on a real level. And everyone knew that. Nobody talked to Liz. You were wary in previous times to this of even saying hello to her. It was that crazy.
Yeah, and to your point, Andrew just put in the chat. At this point, they had been divorced a couple of years. At this point in '96, but still there was that tension, chemistry, whatever you want to call it. Whenever they're on the air together, it's like nothing had ever changed for us watching from home.
Was Gorgeous George on the scene yet?
Not yet.
That I think turned Randy, kind of turned him off on the Liz switch, him having to pull that string all the time.
Sure.
Gorgeous George took over his heart, took over his head, took over his thought process, and I think that probably helped free Liz.
Yeah. Nah, that's a good point. Well, let's talk a little bit about SuperBrawl, the event. It's February 11th, 1996. We're at the Bayfront Center, St. Petersburg, Florida. We start off, Arn, with the Public Enemy versus the Nasty Boys. You want to talk about hardcore mayhem. What did you think about Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge as a tag team and how they fit in WCW?
They had their niche. Their deal was the tables thing, I think.
Yeah.
They've been together quite a while. They just had a different style. It was more of a street fight style. They weren't polished by any stretch of the imagination. But they had a following from ECW, and they parlayed that into a launching pad for WCW.
I was watching the match and I thought to myself, what a perfect matchup between these two teams. Talk about rough tumble through the arena, not afraid of getting hurt. They were going through tables. They were in the merchandise stands. It was just wildly entertaining as a starting match for the pay-per-view. And having been a fan of ECW at the time, to see them come over and do what they were doing and fit in with a team like the Nasty Boys, it was like the perfect booking. To have them working together. So it was a fun match to watch. Next up on the card, let's talk about a guy that we got to talk to a little bit earlier this year, Johnny B. Bad, Mark Merrow versus Diamond Dallas Page. Listen, this is Johnny B. Bad's final pay-per-view in WCW. And you know why? He didn't like the creative direction. He didn't like the direction they were headed with Kimberly. So he asked for his release, Arn. And do you remember anything about this time frame with him leaving or, just going to Bischoff and saying, hey, our visions are clashing and all that good stuff with Merrow and the office?
I don't really, and I wasn't there for any of the private conversations.
Sure.
Where would he have been in his contract? I'm assuming is his latest contract, which he had like a 3-year deal for some strong money.
I'm sure. But yeah, you know what? And it's funny as we go back and talk about these guys and we're like, him leaving and what's he going to, think. And then you just sit and armchair quarterback the deal. He ends up in WWF, landing on his feet, and the career is as we know what happened there, successful, made money and continued to do well for himself. Andrew in the comments said his contract was coming up. So it's not like he, had several years left on his contract or anything like that.
So he already had the 3 strong years behind him when he left. Because
contract's coming up. He's not happy what's going on with him and Kimberly and what they're trying to, how they're writing the script for him. So he says, I want out.
Probably good timing.
Yeah. So he's on his way out and not really sure what's going on here. Obviously Bischoff is has a more prominent voice. Dusty was a big fan of Bad at the time. So you have that changing. Then we move on. We have Sting and Luger versus Harlem Heat. Road Warriors interfere. Luger steals the pin. It's classic tweener stuff. What do you think about the gray area characters? Is that good storytelling? Or are you always, hey, I want the good and evil?
I like it clarified who you are. Gray area is too hard to pull off. And I think it's just better off, if you watch a cowboy movie, you got the good guys and the bad guys.
Yeah, that was going on with these 3 teams here. And so we move on from that match. And also they're teasing some stuff between Sting and Luger as we go here, them having some friction. We move on to Conan versus One Man Gang. The Mexican megastar wins the U.S. title. Do you think that WCW, Arn, during this time, did a good enough job introducing these international talents to American fans?
Who knows? Probably not. Probably not. Most guys that came in, you got a 1 or 2 week push and they move on to somebody else.
I say that because you see some of that nowadays with some of the feedback depending on what wrestling company you follow, but online, social media, man, would love to have seen more of a video backstory on this person so I could appreciate who they are and what they've been through. And it's a compelling, tool for storytelling when you understand who they are. I know I felt that way, especially with some of the New Japan talent. It's almost assumed that we know who all these guys are. We're all hardcores. We watch everything that's ever been produced, when in reality, that's not necessarily the case. Okay, sure, maybe one or two people, that I've heard of, but I do think that as much as some of these wrestling companies I'm talking more about today, but even back then, man, don't discount the ability or opportunity to make sure you're presenting these folks with as much of a backstory for us so that we can really appreciate what we're watching and who's being introduced to us.
Agreed. 100%. The one thing Vince got, he got a lot of things right, but with this company and WWF, they would always, if you're bringing in a new, fresh talent, they would have about 6 weeks of, vignettes.
Yeah.
Which did exactly what you just asked for.
Yeah.
Introduce me to this guy. Let me know his background, because in those days there was no social media. It was wrestling magazines, wrestling tapes, and word of mouth, right?
He was creating characters the way he wanted to introduce them to you, but he was still creating them prior to ever putting them in a ring.
That's right.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Even Dusty. I know he was the son of a plumber and he did all those gimmick, deals with him, but still, Mr. Perfect. Think about the vignettes. Ted DiBiase, all the awesome vignettes introducing him in that character. When he came out, the crowd erupted because they knew exactly what this guy was. So you got to give credit where credit is due.
Recognition is everything in this business. We tell the audience the way we use a guy debuting and the way you did is with the vignettes and all, figures what kind of star he was going to be. Well, they're going to have to push this guy to the moon. If you had just one or two vignettes or something that weren't that creative, maybe it was to educate you 3 weeks from now when he comes through the curtain, but it wasn't the same push that you would give a DiBiase or Mr. Perfect, like you said, any of those guys.
Think about, too, if you're just a fan in the audience and they just bring out the guy for the first time and you're not hearing Mike Tenay or Tony Schiavone or someone give you even any kind of explanation either. You're not even hearing that. You're just cold to whoever just came out and seeing him for the first time.
Well, and conversely, just using us as an example, after we left and went to the WWF to wrestle, Tully and I, we didn't have ring music. We never had. So when they played, the introductions and all that stuff, we just came through the curtain. There was no music. There was nothing to recognize us by, but we had all that name recognition, face recognition. It was like, I'll never forget it. We came through the curtain. We're heading to the ring, and guys are going, Jesus Christ, that's a Horseman. Yeah. I'm hearing the fans recognize us on the way to the ring. So we had that advantage. We slid in the ring. People reacted because we had 3 years of TV behind us.
That's right. Yep. That was definitely a different story. Even when Flair first came out with the big gold belt and it was all, messed up on TV, crowd knew who he was, TV, because we had watched him on TV and it was more exposure. Ryan Note on the chat says the Bushwhackers had fun vignettes and were over as hell. You got that right, man. The vignettes were everything for the Bushwhackers before they even got in the ring.
Whoa, yay.
All right, let's get into it. And before I get into the Pillman Sullivan, we got a super chat, and we want to make sure we take care of our super chats. The Riddler 3579. The Arn merchandise is outstanding. The fit of the shirts are perfect, and the zip hoodies are the best seen to date. Will there be a 2XL bomber in the near future? I'm going to the bomber jacket right now. I'm on there. You know what? It's out of stock, the 2XL, but that doesn't mean it's not coming back. So keep an eye out for it. And I'm sure once it's back in stock, it will populate on the website. So Riddler, great question. But listen, thank you for that awesome feedback. we're not lying on here, guys, about the quality of this merch. It's fantastic, and we appreciate you taking advantage of it.
And just to make sure we get some more, I want one too. So
I know
put
you.
me
Yeah, I
down.
know the 2XL will be coming down. Yeah,
Put me down for the 2X, my man.
you got it. You got it. See, Arn wears the merch too. Wear what Arn Anderson wears. Okay, so there you have it. All right, let's get back to it. CG, real quick, I'll say this. Arn and the Four Horsemen had an aura about them. As a teenager, I'd get goosebumps just hearing them be introduced. Let's talk a little bit about Pillman, Sullivan, the Bookerman moment, because this is what I wanted to give a little bit of extra time to on this show. The match was supposed to be, Arn, a brutal strap match. The Con were the only one was to say, I respect you. Kevin Sullivan enters first with Jimmy Hart. Then Pillman walks out. And before they even get tied up, Pillman grabs the mic and suddenly says, I respect you, Booker man, and walks right out of the ring. They were messing around, had a few little exchanges, and then he does that. No one knows what's going on. The match is suddenly over. It's like 53 seconds. Then you come down wearing a pair of khaki shorts. Okay. No, not boots, not ring boots. You're in street clothes. You jump in and you keep this segment alive. You and Sullivan go at it in an impromptu continuation. And then here comes Ric Flair. He storms out, grabs a mic, tells you both to stop. He reminds you, now remember what we've talked about, two heel groups feuding, that you're supposed to be united against Hogan and Savage. And the segment ends with you and Sullivan shaking hands. And this is, by the way, a moment that's lived on for decades. So what's going through your head? Talk to us about this moment when you're in the back. I mean, obviously, Pillman must have caught everybody off guard. Just walk us through what you remember from this whole situation, please.
Well, let me just say again, nobody knew whether Brian was working us, working the fans, working himself, or if this was a straight shoot, we have a lunatic running around the company just creating chaos. You never really knew. But what I did know is we had a pay-per-view feature match that never happened. Pillman just ran out of the building, and I just remember somebody coming back through there. I forget who even was in charge or who the boss was. They just said, we got to have a match. We got to have a match. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I said, I'll take it. I felt responsible for Pillman. I was one of the proponents of making him a horseman. I had no idea he was going to be this nutcase that we had on our hands. So in my polo shorts and walking boots, no way to even stretch out, no time to stretch out, took off my shirt, went to the ring and had a fight. Because the one thing in the back of my mind is if we don't give them something, and something pretty decent, we are screwing our fans who have paid pay-per-view prices for what we got going on here. So that's how that ended up. And fighting in mountain climbing boots and polo shorts is not ideal. Flair came down, got involved. It turned in just to be a big, wild throwaway. Mm-hmm. And at the end of it, you still don't know. I went to try to find Pillman. He had powdered, got his bag and went right out the back door, got in his car and left.
What's the communication like? Do you remember when you got in there, like talking to Sullivan, like, hey, what are we doing here?
He knew.
So he knows that you're just coming out to like just salvage it and let's just wrestle around and we'll figure out kind of the finish. Or did you guys know, hey, were you like, hey, Flair's coming out, or did you even know Flair was coming out?
I didn't even know Flair was coming out. I was just trying to patch a hole. Yeah, I mean, it's in those days you had to think on your feet.
Yeah.
And you're trying to put a big Band-Aid on a big gaping wound on a show that people were spending what, $49 for?
Sure. Yeah.
That's, the fans, and giving the fans something more than what they actually paid for at the end of live events and all that. pleasing the fans is what this business has always been about. And they know when you go the extra mile for them. You know, sometimes things aren't the way they've been discussed or prepared or thought about or talked about in the back. It would just become something else. And you don't always have to sit down and have everything mapped out. Think on your feet, make sure it applies to what you got going on TV. And sometimes you just wing it.
And it seemed like too, Flair obviously came out and kind of brought everybody together and said, hey, our focus is against Hogan. And it's like the storylines almost just changed right there in the ring. Why are we fighting each other? We need to be focused on Hogan. Okay, I guess, you know, Flair's obviously working on, you know, if someone's talking to him about creative, he's involved in creative. They know that was ultimately the plan, but that's all figured out. And then he communicates it as part of this match. Wild to me that it's all done on the fly.
Yep. And in those days, if you could be trusted and you were a veteran and you knew what you were doing out there, some things change sometimes.
Well, now I'm glad that you still have a pretty good memory of how that all went down. There's a lot of people in the comments that are just saying, Arn, that's why you're one of the most respected, classiest people. CG, Darth says you're the GOAT. And just said, you know, CG just said, just quick thinking. I'm not sure people could do that today. Definition of a team player. So, and that's a great point, because I think we've become so structured, scripted, to be able to have that autonomy and the ability. It's more the ability to come down and wing it like that and stay within the guardrails of the story and make sense of it all. Great job.
Thank you. And that's the way the business is supposed to be. You got to have leadership out there. You got to remember what story you're telling. And, you know, if everything changes from a mechanics standpoint in a match, you come out, let's just say I'm a horseman, I'm a hardcore heel. I go into the ring and I got a match with somebody and they're just cheering me. No matter what I do, the more nasty stuff I do, the more they cheer for me. When you have something like that, you just have to completely turn it around and just give them what they're going with. You just don't keep butting your head against the wall. If you're who they like that night, the other guy over there that's babyface is just going to have to hold his nose and get through it, because they're telling us what they want. Why we're not going to listen to them? That's foolish.
Andrew makes a great point in the chat. He says this was largely the first time for so many to see something in the show go sideways. This is before the Montreal screw job, before social media existed. I mean, so as fans, we're like, what's going on? But we could tell something crazy just went on that wasn't supposed to.
And it was uncomfortable. And you're asking the guy sitting next to you, you know, what did we just see? And who I didn't know. Kevin didn't know what just happened. The only one that will know is Pillman, and he wasn't in the building.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Kevin Sullivan. I was watching the segment thinking, man, I would have loved to ask him what he was thinking doing this. For those that don't know, I got to do a show with him for a little while, Tuesdays with the Taskmaster, and I've grown to love that man. So just wanted to say that about Kevin Sullivan. Great. Rob Hissam said nowadays Arn just uses the Glock. Smiley face. So that's good stuff. Let's move on. Great stories, but we got to get to you beating Hogan. So to finish out the card here, Road Warriors, they take on Sting and Luger. It's a double count out. So that goes sideways. Then we get Flair, 2 cage matches to wrap up the pay-per-view. You have Flair versus Savage, steel cage, world title. Elizabeth gives Flair the show. That's right. Elizabeth has now turned heel. She's said, see you, Savage, see you, Hogan. I'm now with Flair and team. Flair wins. Woman had a distraction. Hogan comes down to interrupt, and the crowd starts chanting, Hogan sucks. So I'm not sure about that. I don't know what you make about that, but it felt to have the crowd turn. Listen, as I watched some of this in the Hogan Giant match, which was next, and some of the same spots that he did with other big men in the WWF days in the cage matches, I thought to myself, my goodness, nothing saved your career, Hogan, like NWO, Hulk Hogan. it was just time, because we were watching them play all the same hits again with the heel factions and the heel big men. But Liz is now with your team. Flair wins. He's the champion. And we move on down the road. What did you think about now Liz joining your faction?
For us, it just worked. Strength in numbers, especially when it was somebody you didn't expect. You didn't expect Liz to turn heel.
No.
Ever, her whole career, you never thought, which was kind of like Hogan. You never thought Hogan would have turned heel. But he did. And when he did, it was a shock. And they're right. It did turn his career around, you know.
For sure. If you guys want to go back, watch the Nitro after this. Liz comes out with Rick and Woman, and Liz cuts a promo. You rarely hear Liz talk, but she did a really good job. And Rick was entertaining as hell, came out on a gurney. And that was a fun bit, watching Gene Okerlund trying to keep up with Liz, Flair, and Woman. And his interaction with Woman was always fun too, watching Okerlund. So just some nuggets to keep an eye on if you go back and watch it. We get to the main event. Hogan beats the whole Dungeon of Doom single-handedly. I mean, he was using these chair shots. They looked like he was swinging aluminum foil, but he does that. Then at the end, this guy named Loch Ness comes out, this monster. He comes out, and they keep him out of the cage before he goes in to tear apart Hogan. But it was an interesting match. The one I couldn't buy, though, when he's swinging the chair. Guess who he hits in the head with the chair, and the person actually sold it? None other than Ming. Okay, that's when I knew this is a bunch of chicanery.
Thank God he did sell it.
Oh my God.
He might have got pissed and killed everybody in the building.
He definitely sold it. And I thought, oh, what is going on here? We know this isn't reality. So that wraps up the pay-per-view there, Super Brawl. And then there's a little tidbit of news that I want to share with you. And that is in February of this year, Scott Hall goes to the WWF and says, I want out. And Vince said no to Japan dates and no to more money. Hall refused to work with Goldust in that storyline. And suddenly they suspended Scott Hall. So what did you make of Vince letting Hall go and all of that was surrounded with Scott Hall at this point?
See, I never knew any of that. What the story I thought and what I've thought all along is his contract just came up and they didn't realize it. So I was wrong about that, right?
He wanted more money. And there was some, and like I said, he wanted to do the Japan stuff, and then he also Scott refused to work with Gold. So there was more layers to that whole story than that. But yeah, and so that it's coming to an end, and then you also have Eric teasing on the pay-per-view, or should I say, well, between Eric and Mean Gene, call the hotline. Big WWF stars ready to make their way, to the company. And there was a lot of that during this. I was watching some of the Nitros in February, and on one of the Nitros, I can't remember exactly which one, Eric says, stay here. And he gives the entire results of Raw right up front. I mean, it was just a wild time in wrestling, buddy.
Well, we were in a war, right?
Yeah.
And everybody was playing to win. Nobody gave a shit. If you said you cheated, yep, so what?
Let's get into, we're at 48 minutes, and I know you're still trying to kick out fully from what you've been dealing with physically. So I want to get here. Monday Nitro, February 12th, you defeat Hulk Hogan in Tampa with the help of Liz's shoe to the eye. Arn, I don't know if you remember this, but do you know who was sitting front row watching you pin Hulk Hogan?
President Trump?
No. George Steinbrenner. The owner at the time of the New York Yankees, whose baseball hat you wore in your early days. How cool is that?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because at that time, he was a shaker and a player.
Mm-hmm.
Worldwide.
And I thought to myself, I remember seeing Arn back in the day sporting a Yankees hat. And now all of a sudden, he's wrestling and beating Hulk Hogan in front of the boss.
Yeah, the Yankee cap with the twang, southern twang like I got, just got immediate heat.
It was a
You're
heat
not,
magnet.
you're not a New Yorker. Who are you kidding? That was the goal. That's what it was, the end game to it. But yeah, that was pretty cool having Mr. Steinbrenner in the audience.
I was like, I had to remind you, because I'm like, maybe that was that, I didn't know if that was missed or something that you just kind of didn't recall. Happens to all of us. I just realized I was at a minor league game a few years ago. Totally forgot. Rehab assignment for Pedro Martinez, and saw him strike out 9 people. I didn't realize it until I went back and looked through some old pictures the other day. You just don't remember. Life happens, right? And there's little details, unless someone's there or you see a picture that reminds you of it. But man, George Steinbrenner, you win. Let's talk about how validating was it? How big was it for you, Arn, to be in a ring with Hulk Hogan, establish mainstream star power, and you get to pin him?
Well, it just wasn't done in those days. And even though it took a shoe and some powder and about 5 of us to get it done, who cares?
It happened. That's exactly right.
We had enough strength in numbers again, distractions, and to get him in a position where they would buy me catching one on him. And but I think the audience was in shock because I just wasn't positioned. If he was going to drop a fall, it was somebody that needed to be at the very top, top guy, and I wasn't in that position. I was the setup guy, I guess. And but I took it. Certainly, it was a 1, 2, 3, and
so cool.
Not many people did that to Hogan, and nobody did it 2 weeks in a row. That's for sure.
The feather, another feather in the legendary career of AA. And then the next week, February 19th, it's a rematch. It kicks off the card, and you go at it again with Hogan. And this time by DQ after interference, you get another win. Back-to-back weeks over Hogan.
What was so nauseating about it is I started to run down on the match, which brought Randy from the opposite side. And the finish to the match was Randy slid in just ahead of me. I was on my way to get DQ'd, but he slid in doing the right thing. And when he slid in, stood up, referee DQ'd it.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, he was going to attack because Sullivan was going to come in and he was supposed to attack him, but the ref looked up and it shows Randy running in and jumping in the ring. And I think it was Nick Patrick rang the bell, and buddy, you got the win again. I thought, holy shit, 2 times in 1 month.
2, and it counts.
I'm going to ask this question because it just came in and it's the super chat. Our buddy, Instagram wrestling historian, was Hulk Hogan difficult to do business with?
Never.
Love it.
Never was. No. I wrestled him, I don't know how many times in different combinations. It was never a business issue.
I watched you intently, especially that first match, working with Hulk. And I saw you selling for him, get up after he knocked you down, getting up, feeding him, doing all the things. And I thought to myself, I wonder how much Hulk really enjoyed working with a professional and a technician, all where you need to be with your spots, feeding him, selling. Arn, you were just a great wrestler, and it's been fun to watch you and go back and watch your career now, getting to work with you. But seeing you work with Hogan, I'm sure Hogan, it was like a night off for Hogan to work with you.
Well, I gave him the whole match. I don't know how you get a guy over more than what I did. I gave him the entire match. I just took enough just so that I could look like I belonged in the ring with him. That's all I took. And then we had the finish, which was really rotten.
But you two did, and I'm sure Hogan was like, man, I'm working with a professional, and you're thinking I'm working with Hulk Hogan, who knows what he's doing. He's been in so many main events. It was a marriage made in heaven, heel, babyface.
If I didn't get one offensive move, it's okay. It's Hulk Hogan. He's at a different level than everybody else.
Good stuff. Let's move on. February 26th. Leaving the Dungeon of Doom and returning now as a 3rd member of the Mega Powers, none other than Ed Leslie. He's reborn as the Bootyman. And he returns and he tags with Savage in that Nitro on February 26th. And he beats the 3-man team of you, Flair, and Kevin Sullivan. So you three are all aligned, and it's a great main event to wrap up February 26th. And hey, listen, his pants looked very similar to Brutus Beefcake pants. At some point, then you see Kimberly making her way, because now with Johnny B. Bag gone, they need something for Kimberly to do. She becomes the Booty Babe, I believe, is going to be her gimmick. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to end up there, and she's going to be with the Booty Man. But what do you think? Do you think the audience is buying the Booty Man?
Probably not. I don't even know what that means.
When I think of booty, I think of backside. So I don't know. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, that jumps off the page. But whose are they referring to?
Well, they couldn't use beefcake.
Kimberly's or beefcakes.
Either one works for me. But listen, I tell you what. They had a concern over beefcake because of the naming rights with WWF. So instead of beefcake, we go Booty Man. I don't know. I don't know the logic, but it doesn't feel like there was a lot of time invested in there. Unfortunately, in those days, there was no Chat GPT to come up with some other suggestions. But man, we've got betrayals. We had leather straps, cage matches. We had Hogan suck chants. Arn Anderson stacking up wins over the Immortal One. And it all leads to the alliance to end Hulkamania and an uncensored match that we'll talk about the next time we're covering March 1996 when we cover that time in your career. What are your final thoughts on WCW at this point?
Well, like I said, I was there for 12 years. I was thankful to have been there for 12 years. It was it was a good company to work for if you were a guy that had been in the territory days and worked 300 plus days a year. The schedule was not intolerable. Money was guaranteed. They were finding their way along. It was just for a startup company to try to figure out the wrestling business, which is difficult. It can be difficult for it to make sense in a nonsensical industry. I was just glad to be there, and I could tell things were going to be evolving one way or the other.
You're competing against and competition now against the number one of all time in the WWF. So it's a lot of fun, and especially we've seen the writing on the wall. We've seen what happens here. We know how the company continues to evolve. So it's an exciting time. A couple of fan mentions here. Ryan Nodal says, what about Randy Savage? Was he difficult to do business with at all?
Not for me.
Not for Arn. Arn, you could stand in the ring with any main event wrestler and hold your own. You made anyone you work with look great as well as yourself. Just my 2 cents. That's from CG. And Ryan says, Arn, do you think Ed Leslie was just out of place here in WCW, given it was a different time and different era?
I just think it ran its course.
Yeah.
When you switch a guy's gimmick as many times as they switch his, it feels like, I ask the audience, but it feels like this one ain't worked. Let's move on to something else. Well, each time you do that, it just waters you down.
For sure.
I never changed. I'm still around. I was the same guy for 40 years.
The Andrew says, I can tell you right now, the Tower of Doom match at Uncensored is going to be one of my favorite episodes of this show. I've been waiting for this one, and that's where we're going, guys. Next time we're together, we're going to do Ask Arn, and then the following show in August, it's going to be March 1996, Tower of Doom, and whether WCW swung too far into cartoon territory or did they strike gold. It's Uncensored 1996, and it's going to be a hell of a time. Arn, thank you so much for doing this with me this month.
Thank you, buddy. I'm honored. Thanks to everybody that tuned in today. Appreciate you. Like I said, I'm sorry that I missed. Hopefully it won't ever happen again. You guys are great.
Guys, listen, you are fantastic. You are what makes this show fun and interactive, and we appreciate all of you. One more plug, check it out, fourhorsemanshop.com for some great merchandise. Ryan says, before we end, prayers to everyone affected by the flood in Texas. Arn, we were just talking about that before we went on. I know you've been following what's been going on down there. a tragic situation, and absolutely for sure our thoughts are and prayers with the folks in Texas.
Well, as I sit in my chair and you guys are sitting at home on your couch or whatever it is you're doing, no matter what hardships you may be facing, what bad things are going on in your life, think about those people in Texas, put it in context, and say a prayer for them. They're going to need a bunch of prayers, and long time with a lot of kind people and dedicated people, first responders, people that are just there volunteering. Everybody has opened their arms to these folks. Horrible tragedy, horrible tragedy. And do what you can do to support them in your prayers. If you want to make donations, whatever way you can step up and let these people know that they're not in this by themselves and that we understand what they're suffering through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Arn. And so our hearts are heavy and thoughts are there with all of them. I'm sure check out Red Cross. You can absolutely donate if you'd like to do that as well. So appreciate you saying that, Arn. Appreciate you, Ryan, for mentioning that as well. Appreciate all of you for being here so much. Again, don't forget, July 29th. It's Ask Arn Almost Anything. We will have a great time sitting around the virtual living room of Mr. Arn Anderson, and I can't wait for that time. On behalf of Arn Anderson, this is Paul Bromwell, and we'll see you here right next time, right here on Arn